I'm Nick DiMatteo, and welcome to Season 8, Episode 4 of Music is Not a Genre. Let's get into it. MxG, this week's topic, Kool and the Gang, more to celebrate. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that and what's going to happen in the next 2 episodes in just a bit. But first, as always, thank you for watching and listening. Listeners, go to youtube.com/@musicisnotagenre. You get a video for every episode of this podcast. Watchers, go to nickdimatteo.com/musicisnotagenre. If you'd rather just listen, and everyone, take a pause and please pause this video or audio and go to patreon.com/musicisnotagenre. To support this show, my band Rec, and everything I do. I cannot stress how important that is for creators like me to have supporters. I just read something online that said this very successful content provider on Instagram, 30 million followers, makes maybe $40 a month from that. And the only way he can make a living from what he's doing is either sponsors, which would be nice, and I've had 1 or 2 here and there, but even more importantly, supporters like you. So please, patreon.com/musicisnotagenre, $5 a month minimum. You can go higher if you want. It's not very expensive, but it makes a huge difference to me and creators like me. And I thank you in advance for doing that. And I thank you in advance for wherever you are watching or listening. Like, share, subscribe, rate, review, playlist, all of those things make a huge difference as well. They help us beat the algorithm, which is not very easy to do. Of course, I also have a song coaching service at nickdimatteo.com/songcoaching. I have helped many, many people take song ideas from one line to an almost fully formed song and turn it into the best possible version of that song and exactly the way they want it to be. You can check out nickdimatteo.com/songcoaching for testimonials, and you will hear some of those people tell you how it is we work together and what I do. Please consider that if you're someone who's been sitting on a song idea and wants to get it fleshed out and out into the world. And then, of course, Rec's new single is You Know You're Right from our album Kite to Camden, streaming everywhere. Go to nickdimatteo.com/music and you get all of the streaming locations and social and live show and the discography and all of that right on that page, nickdimatteo.com/music. And stay tuned. Very soon after either this episode or the next one, Rec will be releasing one more single from Kite to Camden, and I will mention that once it is out. That's the housekeeping, the usual spiel. Let's get into the topic. So Kool and the Gang, more to celebrate. So first of all, consider this episode, or this subject, I will say, and you'll know why I say that specifically, as a companion piece to the episode from a couple of weeks ago on the Pointer Sisters. In that, Kool and the Gang is probably somebody you know. It's a band you know. You probably know 1 or 2 of their hits even. But I doubt you know very much about them or their history or the rest of their music. So they're yet another band who had some hits in the 70s, mega hits in the 80s, sort of fell off the radar after that for the most part, other than live, their live shows and touring. And we define them by the hits they had in the 1980s and maybe the 1970s to a degree, but don't really know that much about them. This is a corrective to that. It's something I really love to do. I love to do these kinds of deep dives. And thank you to the person who watched one of the people who watched the Pointer Sisters episode on youtube.com/@musicisnotagenre, who said that they really appreciated the deep dive I do, even though they were a huge fan of the Pointer Sisters and thought they knew everything about them anyway. That's feedback that I absolutely appreciate as well. So, of course, the subtitle here, More to Celebrate. It's a reference to one of their songs. And they are a Jersey band. That's one of the last things I'll say about this. One of the other reasons I'm doing Kool and the Gang. I'm Jersey proud. I lived in Jersey for many, many years. Most of my formative years were there. I guess all of them, you could say. And so I take a little bit of pride in that fact that Kool and the Gang are from New Jersey. Not my part of Jersey, but close enough. And I'm going to say one other thing, which is that this is a 2-part episode. Yes, you heard me right. The only time I've ever really done this is when I was doing albums by decade, and there were so many that I had to split the decade in half. That's similar here in that Kool and the Gang has released so many albums, and there's so much history here and so much to talk about. I couldn't fit it into one episode, or I don't think I can. As I do one take, and I'm doing this on the fly. But I think I parsed this out in a way that will be easier for all of us to digest. Each episode will be probably a little shorter than your average episode, but within this episode 4 and next week's episode 5, you're going to get the full rundown of their career and all of that stuff. Now, that said, this show format for this episode is I will go into their history, the chronology up to a certain point before we break for next week, some conclusions, the featured song, and questions, and there will be a featured song for both halves or both episodes here for Kool and the Gang, which I'm excited to share with you. And the other thing is that there will be a bonus MxG at patreon.com/music is not a genre. The bonus MxG video for this particular episode, I'm going to go through all of the Kool and the Gang songs that have been sampled by other artists, song by song, and there are several dozen of them. That's the bonus MxG at patreon.com/music is not /music is not a genre. Boy, I should have had more coffee. Patreon.com/music is not a genre for the bonus MxG on all of the Kool and the Gang songs that have been sampled. So that's kind of a rundown of this particular episode. And let me say that I am kicking myself, and I have kicked myself, that there are artists that I've covered that I squeezed their entire careers into one episode, as if I thought that needed to be done. Prince comes to mind. If I ever do another episode on Prince, which I probably will, I will be breaking that into more than one episode, maybe several. I've done it for the Beatles, and they're really the only band I did that for. It doesn't mean that Kool and the Gang is more special than any of the other artists I've covered. It's just that I'm turning over a new leaf, and I'd like to give each section of what I'm talking about room to breathe. Okay? So, sources for both of these episodes, Wikipedia streaming, various streaming sources, YouTube, big one, koolandthegang.fansite.jp for information I couldn't find elsewhere, open.music-works.com, and works is spelled W-O-R-X, W-O-R-X, for music I couldn't find elsewhere, and for the bonus for this one on the sampled songs, whosampled.com, which is a very well-known site for that kind of research. Disclaimers, as usual, I will be biased. As usual, I won't go into personal stuff unless it's relevant to the music. And as usual, I'll mostly avoid non-primary albums, such as live albums and compilations, unless there's something significant, like a new song or musical development. Also, one more disclaimer, some of their music is not online anywhere. And this is the first time that I have encountered that for any artist, period. In this region, in the United States, there are some Kool and the Gang songs that cannot be found anywhere online. It's insane. And I'll comment a little bit more of that and the conclusions too, whether it's this episode or next episode. So let's get into it now. Here we are. Let's get into the history. History of Kool and the Gang. They formed in Jersey City, right across from where I live in New York City, in 1964 by brothers Robert Kool and Ronald Kalis Bayan Bell. He changed his name to that when he converted to Islam many years later. But those two brothers, Dennis D.T. Thomas, Robert Spike Mickens, Charles Smith, George Brown, Woodrow Woody Sparrow, and Ricky Westfield. Westfield's also a town in South Jersey, by the way. The list of founding members is an indication of how long this episode is going to be. That's why I broke it into 2 episodes. So that's a large band already. Not to mention they've had almost 40 members over their 60-year career, which is true for some other bands that have been around this long as well, but still pretty surprising. Woody, the guy Woodrow Sparrow, Woody Sparrow, wouldn't last long, and Ricky left a few years after that. So those 2 founding members didn't stick around for really the heyday. Of the other founding members, Spike Mickens stayed through the mid-1980s. Ronald, Dennis, Charles, and George stayed until their deaths in the 2020s. And Robert Kool himself is still at it, still out there touring as Kool and the Gang. Keep in mind that two reasons they've had so many members, of course. One is the longevity, yes. But two is they have a horn section. They're a big band. Any band like a Chicago or any of the bands that have horn sections, they're going to be larger. So through the late 1960s, they were live staples in New Jersey and New York, mostly doing covers, and went through a few name changes. They started as the Soul Town Band, then the New Dimensions, and then Kool and the Flames, before settling on Kool and the Gang to avoid confusion with James Brown's Famous Flames, his backing band at the time. By the way, I don't often go into the band business and politics, because I'm more about the music. I try to stay focused on the music, but this is pretty cool, pun intended. Their manager and first producer, Gene Redd, R-E-D-D, who suggested the final name change from Flames to the Gang, was a former doo-wop singer-songwriter and producer who started D-Light Records to help produce and launch Kool and the Gang's first 3 albums. He was born in 1924. It is now 2025, October. He is still alive. He is 101 years old. Thought that was pretty cool. Kool and the Gang recorded their first album in 1969, followed by 2 live albums, which I will cover, and you'll see why when we get there. Their next 5 albums saw them rising, after which their next 3 albums in the 70s saw them declining. All of those 8 albums were released from 1972 to 1978. That's a healthy clip. Lots of additions to their style, and I'll get into these more when I get to the chronology. The big change came in 1979 with the addition of James Taylor. Yes, that one. No. James J.T. Taylor. I say that because I love when names like that just coincide, and you're like, wait a second. There's a James Taylor who's the lead singer of Kool and the Gang. It's not the other James Taylor. Of course, you know him more as J.T. It's kind of like Michael Jordan, the actor, goes by Michael B. Jordan to differentiate himself from the basketball player, one reason. And then there's 2 Steve McQueens. There's the old actor and there's the current director, right? So J.T. Taylor's probably the guy you most associate with Kool and the Gang because of all the hits they had and because of his incredible voice and because he was kind of the face of Kool and the Gang more than anybody else during their most successful period, which was 1980 to 1986. They had 14 top 40 hits in that 7-year period, more than Michael Jackson in the same period. They did 7 albums with J.T. Taylor, first 4 produced by Deodato, who I knew as a kid from his kind of proto-disco adaptation of Richard Strauss's Also Sprach Zarathustra, 2001. He put that out in 1973 and won a Grammy. All of which, and all of the albums that he produced with Kool and the Gang, for Kool and the Gang, and with, were successes, and all of them had hits. He left and then JT left in 1987, I believe, after their tour, returning briefly for a comeback album in 1996, which we'll talk about whether or not that was successful in the next episode. Including that album, they've released 9 subsequent albums. 1989 to 2023 is their most recent album. None have done all that well, but there's some stuff worth talking about there. And of course, we're going to go through all of those albums in the second episode as well. More or less, you'll see what I mean as far as success and, creative spark and all of that stuff. It says they won 2 Grammys, and I saw one for Best Inspirational Performance for the song You Are the One, 1984, which actually is a very, very good song. Nice long jam and things like that. And they did do kind of spiritual and religious songs. Not much of them, but quite a bit here, enough to make a note of it throughout their career, still to this day. And I guess the other Grammy they won was a part of the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack because they contributed the title track from their album Open Sesame and ended up on that album. And of course, that one won a Grammy. They got on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2015. They were finally inducted into the Rock Hall of Fame last year, 2024, for which JT reunited with them for a performance. I need to look that up. I need to see it. They continue to tour to this day in 2025, and they continue to release music. They've released remixes as late as the last couple of months of this year. So, yeah, And so that's their history. And so that's their history. Yes, I'm repeating myself again because I need more coffee. Chronology, as you know, I call that. I listen to all the primary, albums from in chronological order. Their first album, released in 1969, Kool the Gang. Eponymous album, and went to number 43 on the R&B charts. It's a funk, soul, jazz, R&B mix with a decided 1960s tightness and chord progression and sound to it that to me defines it as more of a late 60s album than a 70s funk album. You can hear the type of music that inspired Chicago within Kool the Gang, although they were contemporaries and released their first albums right around the same time, really very, very close to that. I am really into the sound of this first album as a cool kind of background vibe setter. It's almost entirely instrumental, some shouted vocals and stuff, which they do for most of the first few albums. Let's go through the track listing. Number 1 is Kool the Gang, stating them who they are. It's the name of the song. It was their first single. It went to number 59 on the main charts. Pretty nice out of the gate. And number 19 in the R&B charts. Great opener. Number 2 is Breeze and Soul. Number 3 is Chocolate Buttermilk. That song really reminds me of Chicago, and it's one of my faves. Number 4, which, by the way, you're going to hear about all of my faves in one of the bonus extras for the next episode, and I'll talk about that, of course, next week, which for me is like an hour from now. 4, Sea of Tranquility. Side 2, Give It Up, Since I Lost My Baby. Kool's Back Again, which was a B-side. It went to number 37 R&B, and I like this better than the A-side. Actually. And then the final, not the final track, but the final single, The Gang's Back Again. It's the second single. Went to number 85 in the main charts, number 39 in the R&B charts, and that is also a great song. It's a great album overall, which, by the way, when I do my conclusions, I'm going to be ranking not all of their albums. No, I'm going to be ranking quite a few of their albums, over a dozen, from the one that I like, better than the ones I didn't rank, to all the way number 1. And you can bet that this first album's in there somewhere, but I won't tell you where. Just stick around. And the final track on this album is Raw Hamburger, which I could go for right now. The CD release bonus track, Let the Music Take Your Mind, was initially released as a single, went to number 78 Main, number 19 R&B. I think this is my favorite, even though it's not on the album proper. It's the funkiest for sure, and it's very forward-looking in terms of how their music and funk music would change in the next few years. Great unison vocals, reminiscent of Sly and the Family Stone. Their next album in 1971 was Live at the Sex Machine. It went to number 12 Main and number 6 R&B. Pretty damn good, especially for a live album. It was their first live album and showed how much they were loved and how amazing they were live. And it charted higher than their studio album, the previous. As you know, I don't tend to bother with live albums because they're just not, they don't sound as good as the studio recordings, and they're rarely good enough in general to warrant any kind of attention as far as I'm concerned. But when I first listened through all of the Kool the Gang albums, I went from their first studio album to their next studio album, which was several years later, and I noticed a significant change in their style, which made me think, oh, okay, these, albums here, the live albums, need to be talked about and need to be listened to. So that's why I put this in there. Plus, there are songs on this album and the next live album that are only on these albums. There was no studio recording. It also showed their origins as a cover band. There's some cover songs here. Singles are great. You can hear them getting more into funk. And by the way, this was recorded in Philly, so shout out to my hometown, original hometown, at the club Sex Machine, Live at the Sex Machine. There was a club called that. So number 1, what would the world be like without music? Let the music take your mind. Number 2, Walk On By is the cover. 3, Chocolate Buttermilk. 4, Trying to Make a Fool of Me. 5, Who's Gonna Take the Weight? It's the third single, number 28 R&B. Kills, absolutely kills. Side 2, Pneumonia. Wichita Lineman, another cover. I Want to Take You Higher for the Sly cover. 4th single, went to number 35 R&B. Funky Man's the second single. Number 87 Main, number 16 R&B. Very cool. 5, Touch of You. And the CD release bonus track is Cool It, Here Comes the Fuzz, which was actually the first single they released in this from this recording, not on the album proper until the CD. Didn't chart. Next album, same year, Live at PJ's, 1971, went to 171 main and 24 R&B. It was recorded at PJ's in West Hollywood. Even deeper into funk and jazz. I actually prefer this over the first Live album, and so did a lot of hip-hop artists who sampled from it. Bonus MxG at patreon.com/music is not a genre. All of the Kool and the Gang songs that have been sampled by all of the hundreds and hundreds of artists. So, starting number 1, NT. It's the only single. They used part 1 of this long track. It didn't chart. It's a great song, and it's been frequently sampled. Number 2, Rick Sonata. Number 3, Sombrero Sam. Oh, flute solos. Near and dear to my heart. I love a flute solo. Number 4, Ronnie's Groove. Great energy, cool horn parts. Side 2, Ike's Mood. You've Lost That Loving Feeling. I believe Ike's Mood was Isaac Hayes written. And of course, the next one was a cover. Number 3, Lucky for Me. Number 4, Doogie. Great fusion. Just great fusion. And the bonus track is The Penguin. Also great fusion. Oh, my God. And both of these will end up on my top 45, which is going to be the next bonus them extra. And I'll talk about that next week. Their next studio album, was Music is the Message from 1972. Went to number 25 R&B. Definitely gelling. It was the first album of all original material. So they were staking a claim. They were starting to build. Number 1, Music is the Message. Second single, didn't chart. One of their strains started here, which is, or maybe even earlier, but positive messaging with lyrics that were but still a really, really good song. And you have Electric Frog Parts 1 and 2. Soul Vibrations. I love this. Love it. Side 2, Love the Life You Live Part 1 was their first single. Went to number 31 R&B. Really good. Positive messaging. Then Love the Life You Live Part 2. Amazing as well. Stop, Look, Listen to Your Heart. Blowin' with the Wind. It's a chilled jazz fusion that is just freaking awesome. And then Funky Granny. Third single. Didn't chart. I can't dislike this because my old band Ape Cafe did a song called Granny, and it's oddly similar. Not in style, but in approach. All right, next studio album, 1972, Good Times. And yes, that came out the same year. So 2 albums in 2 years again. Went to number 142 main, number 34 R&B. More singing than on the previous albums. And there was, more song type stuff. Still in the same vein, though. Jams that kill. It wasn't a huge hit, but it stayed on the charts quite a while. You can hear them building to something. And honestly, it's hard to dislike any of it. First song, Good Times. First single didn't chart, but I love it. Second, Country Junkie. Second single didn't chart either, but I also love it. It's country jazz funk fusion, people. 3, Wild as Love. 4, North, East, South, West. It's my kind of slow groove, and I love the slightly distorted keys. Side 2, Making Merry Music, also really strong. I Remember John W. Coltrane, Rated X, and Father, Father. Which brings me to 1973, and the album Wild and Peaceful. Went to number 33 on the main charts and number 6 on the R&B charts. It was their first true breakthrough, first gold album, and it is an amazing album. And not just for the hits. You have to see where it ranks in my ranking later on in this episode. Had you not known them, you would have thought they came out of nowhere, as big as this album was, even though they had been around for quite a while, almost 10 years at this point, and releasing 6 albums, First track, Funky Stuff. First single, number 29 main, number 5 R&B. That's their highest charting, I believe, in the main. I think either chart. Laying out the vibe right away. Perfect. 2, More Funky Stuff. 3, Jungle Boogie. Bam, bam, Jungle Boogie. If you don't know this, then why are you listening to this podcast? It's one of their biggest hits. It was their second single. It was their first huge hit. It went to number 4 main and number 2 R&B. Bam. 4 is Heaven at Once. It's a good song. Number 5, Hollywood Swinging. Another big frickin' hit. Thing is, this one of these songs where I wouldn't have been able to tell you it was Kool the Gang. I either knew and forgot or never knew. I knew the song, of course. It's very distinctive, and all of its parts are distinctive. So many hooks. Its third single went to number 5 main, number 1 R&B. Their first number 1 anywhere. Side 2, This Is You, This Is Me. Love that freaking song. Number 2, Life Is What You Make It. It's so great. Nice change of pace and reminds you that they are not just doing funk, they're doing jazz. What an amazing band. Number 3, Wild and Peaceful, Sublime. Over 9 minutes. Jazzy. I could listen to this every day. And the jazz flute kills, of course. Which brings me to 1974's album, Light of Worlds. Went to number 63, Maine, and number 16, R&B. It's a landmark funk, jazz, fusion album and considered their most spiritual. And they would put spiritual on every album, but this is their most. So not only did Kool and the Gang have a range of incredible hits that included several styles, they recorded a seminal frickin' funk jazz fusion album. It was a departure from their previous heavy funk albums, which were poppier. And honestly, this is so far up my alley that it hurts me on the inside. And yes, you can visualize that if you'd like. Number 1, Street Corner Symphony, incredible. Number 2, Fruit Man. Number 3, Rhyme Time, People. Second single went to number 63, Maine. Number 3, R&B. Pretty good song. 4, title track, Light of World. Side 2, Whiting, H&G. Number 2, You Don't Have to Change. So smooth, so good. Number 3, Higher Plane. First single went to number 37, Maine. Number 1, R&B again, and it kills. Number 4, Summer Madness. Sort of the third single. It was a B-side to a song from the next album. It reached number 35, Maine, and number 36, R&B, and it was sampled, of course, by DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince for Summertime, among many, many others. And again, I learned that from doing the research for this, and you will learn more about it if you check out the bonus MxG at patreon.com/musicisnotagenre on all the Kool and the Gang songs that have been sampled. Final on this is called Hereafter. And then, next album, 1975, boy, were they on a roll. Spirit of the Boogie went to number 48, Maine, and number 5, R&B, and number 18 in the jazz charts. It was a return to form of the Wild and Peaceful album, not quite as, dreamy spiritual, which fine either way. Number 1, title track, Spirit of the Boogie, great, fun vocals. First single went to number 35, Maine, and again number 1, R&B, third time. 2, Ride the Rhythm, amazing. Number 3, Jungle Jazz. It was a riffing kind of improv follow-up of Jungle Boogie. You'll hear the similarity. Jazzier improv. Great again. Awesome. Love it. 4, Sunshine and Love. 5, Ancestral Ceremony. It's great mashup of funk, synth, and African percussion and jazz and all of that. It's a great song. Side 2, Mother Earth. 2, Winter Sadness. So Summer Madness to Winter Sadness. Nice. I love this. It's got an extended synth solo, which I really like, and it's been sampled a lot. Again, bonus MxG. Patreon.com/musicisnotagenre. All the Kool and the Gang songs that have been sampled. Final on this is Caribbean Festival. The second single went to number 55, Maine, number 6, R&B. I love the bass line on this. A disco version was released at some point, and normally I would prefer that because it's just, more digestible and poppier and everything. Not the case here. I actually like this album version better. And I actually like the fact that we have come to the halfway point of this episode. So we're going to take a little break here for the mid-roll, and we will be back in a minute. Hey, thanks for checking out this episode of Music is Not a Genre. If you'd like to learn more about this podcast, if you'd like to learn more about the music I do with my band Rec or any other projects or anything else about me, go to nickdematteo.com. That's Nick, DEMATTEO.com. And everything is there. There's even a link to a merch store where you can get t-shirts and mugs and hats and totes and notebooks and so many other things. I'm always adding new products there. Great way to support the podcast. And finally, go to patreon.com/musicisnotagenre if you'd really like to show your support. My fans and lovely family there get exclusives and other perks and early releases, and they get to suggest topics for future podcasts as well. Thanks for listening to the mid-roll. Now back to the show. All right, we're back from the mid-roll. I have nothing special to say other than I'm really enjoying this episode, and I hope you are too. And we're going to get right back to the chronology. We left off with 1975's Spirit of the Boogie. And here we are at 1976 with their album Love and Understanding. Went to number 68, Maine. Number 9, R&B. It's a hybrid album of studio tracks and live tracks. Title track, Love and Understanding, was the first single. Went to number 77, Maine. Number 8, R&B. 2 is Sugar. 3 is Do It Right Now. 4, Cosmic Energy. My favorite song on the album. Side 2 is all live tracks. Hollywood Swinging, Summer Madness, Universal Sound, and Come Together. And here's the thing, and it's not that Come Together. Here's the thing. I rarely recommend listening to anybody live, frankly. Even the most famous live albums, I'm like, I can't. I just can't. They killed. And I think it's partly because they were doing so much jazz. And to me, the exception I always make with live recordings are for classical music and jazz. And in particular jazz, because I lean more in that direction, but both really. And that's because you will get things that are inventive in ways that maybe they didn't do or couldn't do in the studio. Now, people who are jam band fans, which, by the way, I will be doing a jam band episode later this season, guest host Scott Blaze will do it, actually. I think they might say the same thing. And I agree. I'm not a huge fan of jam music in that vein, but since it's very close to jazz and I understand, then you can see why live albums from that genre would make sense too. Okay. So same year, in 1976, they released the album Open Sesame, went to 110 main and 9 R&B and number 32 jazz. It was their first true foray into disco music. It's a fun update, but I feel like this album and Love and Understanding show they were kind of in a rut, maybe a lot of live performance. Maybe they needed a refresher, and I believe that shows as well, except for some of the tracks here. Number 1, Open Sesame, Groove with the Genie, is the first single. Went to number 55 main and number 6 R&B. And I know this because of the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. Wouldn't have been able to tell you it was them at the time. I would have forgotten. But I love this song. It was the first of their songs to chart in the dance tracks at number 13. The horn line is amazing. You got to listen to Open Sesame. Number 2 is Gift of Love. 3 is Little Children. Number 4 is All Night Long, not the one you're thinking of. Worthy song, jazz, funk, disco. Good song. Beside 2 is Whisper Softly. Then Super Band. It's the second single, only charted number 17 R&B, but I love it. It's very Parliament sounding. Number 3 is Love. Number 4 is Sunshine. And not the one, actually, I don't know what you're thinking when you hear that. And then, 1977, they released their next album, The Force, which, by the way, you lucky people who are on YouTube are getting to see all the album covers for this. And I have to say that with a couple of exceptions, the covers that they put together for their albums are just killer. I love the artwork. So The Force continued their decline, their commercial decline, went to number 142 main and number 33 R&B. And that's, I think, partly because it was a continuation of their retread. It sounded more like stuff that would have been big in the early 1970s. There's nothing really new here. I enjoyed the sound. I enjoyed the Parliament influence. But the songs they just aren't strong enough to hold up, and there's not enough different or updated that would have, pushed them back up into the charts. So many of the songs were close to being great, but just something slightly off or dated. All that said, it's a very interesting step in their transition from deep soul funk fusion to the poppier stuff that they'd hit it big with. You can hear the transition starting. It's like they were steps forward developing the sound, but just needed the material and the singer to push it over, which they would get soon. Number 1, A Place in Space, first single, didn't chart. I don't love it. Number 2, Slick Super Chick. Love this song. Second single, number 19, R&B. 3 is Just Be True. 4 is title track, The Force. Side 2, Mighty Mighty High. There's a 12-inch disco version of this on the expanded edition that I really like. Number 2 is Oasis. Number 3 is Life's a Song. And number 4 is Free. The following year, they released the album Everybody's Dancin'. And there are 2 things I have to say about the punctuation for this band. First of all, kudos to any band that uses an ampersand. I prefer them to ands, especially in titles, depending on how it's used. And I use them often in writing, too. And secondly, lots of apostrophes. Lots of taking that G off the end of the word, which I am totally into and I respect. Everybody's Dancing went to number 71 R&B, and it was the first album since their second album to not chart at all in the main charts. So, again, a slide. But it was a move forward stylistically. They mostly left behind their jazzy spiritual side, although they would never fully leave it behind. If you listen to Everybody's Dancing again, you'll hear the transition from this and the previous album into what they would do on the next album. First track, title track, second single, went to number 65 R&B. 2 is Dancin' Shoes. So 2 songs with dancing in the title. 3 is Big Chief Funkum, just weird enough to work. Kind of in the pocket of that era's obsession with Native Americans. Think of Apache, jump on it, you know. But it was both complimentary and a little cliche and a little racist. But the song itself does work, and I like it. Side 2, I Like Music. It was the first single, didn't chart. Not a great song. The sound is amazing. Again, I think almost all their sound is amazing, but not a great song. It was a sound that would carry them forward in the next couple of years. So listen to I Like Music for the germs of their big hits. Number 2, You Deserve a Break Today. Total use of the McDonald's catchphrase with a different, meaning and a different melody, and I kind of do like it. Number 3, At the Party. Again, sounds so freaking good. Production's great. Their playing is great. Just misses the mark on the song. 2, Stay a While. And 5, It's All You Need. It's my favorite on the album. Best song on the album. And it's partly because they're back with their good feeling spirituality vibe, but they do it in just a really nice way. Number 6 is Peace to the Universe. And let's get to the next album. And I paused there for a second, partly because my notes confused me, and partly because this is a big album. So last few albums saw them declining, saw them retreading, saw them reinventing as well, which was important. And this album, Ladies' Night from 1979, was their huge comeback album. Went to number 13 main and number 1 R&B, and it would really start their rise and their dominance for the next several years. The highest to date, number 13 main and number 1 R&B for both charts. It was their first platinum seller as well. They added on James Taylor, J.T. Taylor, and Deodato was his first album that he produced for them. And I think those two are what made the difference, and just strong songs. It's interesting, though, they also de-emphasized the horn section. Not totally, I don't think, but enough to be noticed. It's also interesting, and I'll address this and other changes in the conclusion. I honestly forget which conclusion, but I will say just in brief that it reminds me of Chicago's trajectory, and that's sort of a preface. By the way, I got a haircut today, and I haven't messed with my hair, so it's weird to me. So you listeners are probably getting more of a treat than your viewers. First song on this album, Ladies Night, and the feeling's right. It's Ladies' Night. Oh, what a night. First single went to number 8 main. It's their third top 10 main. And number 1 R&B was their 4th on that chart. And number 5 Dance, highest dance track. Great song, of course. If you don't know it, then you don't know them. Number 2, Got You Into My Life. Number 3, If You Feel Like Dancing. Again, no G. The gerund, the partial gerund. JT really sells this song, and it's really freaking good. And it looks ahead to their future hits. Only 3 tracks on each side of this album, by the way, so they're still jamming, which I love. Side B, Hanging Out. It's the 3rd single, went to number 103 main, number 36 R&B. Is a good song, and again, it looks ahead to their future hits. Number 2, Tonight's the Night. Number 3, Too Hot, babe. Gotta run for shelter, gotta run for shade. One of their all-time best songs. It went to number 5 main and number 3 R&B. It's just sublime. What else is sublime is their next album, Celebrate, 1980. Celebrate with an exclamation point, by the way. So Celebrate, 1980. Went to number 10 main, number 2 R&B. They were rising. It's funny how the critics who were trashing them 2 albums before, when they were doing similar stuff, were all saying how seamlessly they transitioned into the 80s. It wasn't seamless. Now, from a music standpoint, I will say the transition is extant. You can hear it. You can absolutely hear it, and it is fascinating. Even the albums that weren't that strong. Fascinating to listen to, but screw the critics, who are constantly waiting for people to fall. The entire album of Celebrate is strong, even beyond the big hit, which of course is number 1, track 1, Celebration. Its first single went to number 1 main, and R&B, and dance. Number 1 on 3 charts, probably number 1 in other countries. I didn't look beyond that. It was their only number 1 hit on the main charts ever in their career, but of course not their only top 10. No matter how overplayed this song got at weddings, it is still hard to resist. There was a time in the 90s when I was like, please don't. Pick a different one. But beyond that, once I got past that period, anytime this song comes on, I mean, I might not play it, like, find it and play it or put it on a playlist because I've heard it enough, but I do not resist it when I hear it. Number 2, Jones versus Jones. It was their third single, number 39 main, number 33 R&B. I don't remember this song as a single, but it's really good. Number 3, Take It to the Top, second single, number 11 R&B. And number 1 on the dance charts yet again. I love this. Again, I don't remember it as a single, but I love it. Number 4, Morning Star. Oh, it's an instrumental. It freaking works. It's the kind of instrumental that a year or two later would have sounded cheesy to people, but in hindsight, it just is sublime. It's a great sound, great melodies. Side 2, Love Festival. A song that would have fallen flat 2 albums before just works so well here, partly because of JT and Deodato, and I mean the band itself. Number 2, Just Friends, is a nice ballad, and their ballads would go from being very nice to very cloying. And this one's a nice one. Number 3, Night People. There were lots of songs at this time and through the mid-'80s that talked about people of the night. The freaks come out at night and all that stuff. This was a great song, though. Fun groove, interesting lyrics. And the last song is Love Affair. The next album, Something Special, 1981, went to number 12 main and number 1 R&B. Another number 1 R&B. More and super strong, yet again. I think the sum total for this isn't maybe not quite as strong as Celebrate, but pretty damn close. And the individual songs, I think, are actually overall stronger than Celebrate. It's a great post-disco sound. Number 1, Steppin' Out, was their second single. Number 89 main, number 12 R&B. Super good song. Don't remember it, but like it. Number 2, Good Time Tonight. Super sounds like Jackson 5. Kind of trying to recreate Celebration. Not bad, but not their best. Number 3, Take My Heart, was first single. Number 17 main, and number 1 R&B, and number 16 dance. Number 4, Be My Lady. Really like that song. Side 2, number 1, Pause for Reverence. Get Down on It. Love this song, always will. It's the third single. Number 10 main, number 4 R&B. This is, again, one of my favorite songs of theirs. Check out the bonus MXtra at patreon.com/music is not a genre for next week, and you get to hear all of my favorite songs of theirs. They're my top 45. Second on side 2 is Pass It On. Third one is Stand Up and Sing, which I really like. 4 is No Show. His fourth single went to number 34 R&B. It was yet another attempt to nail a hit ballad, but no. They'd get there eventually, but again, like some of their ballads, this one included kind of cloying. Number 9, CD reissue bonus track. Not on the original album, but a bonus. Stop. Great instrumental groove, and it updates their jamminess. Really like that song. Which brings me to 1982. Quite interesting album here, As One. Went to number 29 main, number 5 R&B. Not quite as high. And it was their last album with Deodato as well. And you can tell they were kind of just repeating their sound and approach. That said, the actual material overall is probably, I think, the strongest of the Deodato era, I would say. But you'll see where it ranks if you stick around to the conclusions. Number 1, Street Kids. It was the fourth single, went to number 78 R&B. A little cheesy, but I like it. Number 2, Big Fun. It's their first single. Went to number 21 main, number 6 R&B. I don't know why I don't remember this, but it has fast become one of my top favorite songs. Again, top 45 I'll save for Patreon, but it's one of my faves. I'll tell you that. Have some fun. Ah, ha, ha, ha. I'm not doing it well, but the hook is great and the song's great. Number 3, title track As One, is their strongest ballad to date, and I do think it holds up as a ballad. I really like it, and they use the whole ensemble well, which they wouldn't often do in the 80s. They would subvert the horns and things. This one uses them really well. Number 4, Heidi Hi, Heidi Ho. A shout back, I guess, to Cab Calloway. Third single, number 40 R&B. Really good song. Side 2, Ooh La La La, Let's Go Dancing. Love this song. Second single, number 30 main, number 7 R&B. It's one of those forgotten hits, basically, that you need to revisit. I really just, again, one of my current faves. Gives you that kind of chill goodness, like a Lionel Richie song. Number 2, Pretty Baby. Again, strong dance song. Great sound. Number 3, Think It Over. Chill, smoothness. This is a ballad that frickin' works, and I love the changes in this. They really, again, figured out how to use the whole band on Think It Over. I think so. So conclusions. And yes, we're stopping there. So here we are, stopping in 1982 for a couple of reasons. One, as I mentioned, I'm breaking this up into 2 weeks, so you have to wait till next week to hear the stunning conclusion of the career of Kool the Gang, including what comes in 1983, which we'll get to next week, which means I'm going to do conclusions for this episode. I'm going to keep them light since this is our midpoint in the career of this band. I consider Kool the Gang to have had 3 eras and multiple phases in those eras. So you have Fusion era, and then the JT era, and then the Aftermath era. So the first era, to me, I would break into the phases. I would call it Phase 1 Hardcore Live, which was their output from 1969, 1972. First 3 studio albums and the 2 live albums. Second phase was the Funktastic Fusion, 73 to 75, covering those 3 albums there. Number 3 was Freak Funk Disco. It was their transitional period from 76 to 78, those 4 albums, and it saw their first decline. That's the first era. The second era had these phases. Number 1, I would call Bubbling Up from 1979 to 82 was the Deodato era. First hits with JT, which is where we got to today. We got to the end of that phase. The next week, we're going to get to the next phase, which I call Breaking Out, 83 to 87, covering their huge success and the remaining albums with JT, or at least in the 80s. And again, we'll get to them in the next episode. Their third and final era, that Aftermath, the phases are, number 1, Reinvention Struggles, I call it, from 88 to 92, covering their hits album and 2 other albums. Again, we'll get to them next week. Number 2, JT Pop. And that's when JT came back in 96 through 2000, covering that era. And we'll talk about it next week and whether it succeeded or not. Number 3, Hip Hopping 2000s from 2001-2009, covering their next attempt at reinvention by incorporating hip-hop and updating sounds. Something to look forward to the next episode. And number 4, Running Out the Clock, 2010 to 2021, is covering their final period with major band members who died during that period. But there's another phase. What's next? 2022 to right now. They have an album in that and all the singles and the remixes, and who knows what's coming next other than they're still out there live. The point being that a band that's been around this long and still wants to fight to be relevant and put out new material has to move and change, or you're just an oldies band. So it's inevitable that there will be phases like these and successes and failures. I counted 10 phases. And now, again, you have to know what you have to look forward to in the next episode. It's no question that people will consider what I covered in this episode to be most of their classic era, minus the next couple of albums for next week. Among those people would be the hundreds of hip-hop artists who sampled dozens of Kool the Gang songs. And again, you want to know more about the songs that were sampled? It goes well beyond Summer Madness. Well beyond. Bonus M Extra, patreon.com/music is not a genre. I go through almost 70 of their songs that have been sampled by hundreds and hundreds of artists. Speaking of songs, the featured song. I had to really think about this choice, partly because I had one chosen for the episode, which I end up using for next week, and partly because I can't say I've been 100% directly influenced by Kool the Gang, but I can say I've been 100% indirectly influenced by them because I absorbed their music over years of my childhood. And you can tell that in this week's featured song, Rex, Make Me Break Like Every Day, from the album Syncope for the Weird. The smoky groove, funky, layered. It's both spiritual and sexual, mostly the latter, and even quotes a previously existing song. Is all the things that Kool the Gang did. You know, again, it doesn't sound like them because I've not been directly influenced. I wasn't trying to imitate them, but you'll get you'll get the influence. You'll get the connection, I'll say. That, by the way, the previous song I quoted in Make Me Break Like Every Day is Everybody's Got Something to Hide Except for Me and My Monkey by the Beatles, which happens near the end of the song. Listen for those lyrics. This is one of many sex-positive songs I've written, especially in recent years, and it's probably the most explicit. Let the lyrics and the vibe speak for themselves. That's really all I'm going to say, except for click the link in the text to stream it wherever you listen to music. Please do. That helps. And also, just wait for about a minute. You can hear it right now. Questions: how well do you know Kool and the Gang? How well did you know them? Are you familiar only with their big hits, or do you know more? What's your favorite song? What's your favorite album? What's your favorite era? Did you have any idea how varied their musical output has been, or how critically acclaimed they were in the 1970s? Did you? Are you excited to get into the second half of their career next week? I want to know the answers to all these questions and more, because as always, my objectives here are music, conversation, and connection. Thank you for hanging with me for part 1 of Kool and the Gang. Stay tuned for part 2 next week.
Come on. Come on. You coming, set my body humming. I wanna take you every day, you make me break like every day. Telling you the story, how you make me more me. Wanna taste you every day, make me break like